Welcome to episode 77 of British Strength Radio. I'm your host, Alexander Clark, and my guest today is Thomas Lilley. Thomas Lilley is the owner of Zero, a company out of Australia, which has been gathering a lot of momentum over the past few years. A huge chain of gyms, both in Australia and abroad now in the UK, with, of course, Zero Wales, owned by Jordan Hellier. Zero is a coaching company too, with many, many successful athletes and a list of accolades, which is saw on Thomas's Instagram post the other day, probably too long for me to to go through on this podcast. We'd be using the whole episode to go through all those accolades, but Thomas is a powerlifter himself. I believe he's completed a 900 kilo raw total and a 1,000 kilo wrap total. I don't know if those are correct, but Thomas is listening to this now, so I'm sure he'll correct me if I'm wrong. And of course, he is the coach to Colton Engelbrecht, who is just an absolute phenom. And I'm amongst the many, I'm sure, who is struggling to wrap my head around why he's so good. And hence, we have Thomas on the podcast today to try to get to the bottom of that.
But first, a word from our sponsors.
Strom Sports Nutrition. Strom leads the way when it comes to innovation and quality in the sports supplements industry. Whether you're looking for strength athlete favourites such as Creamax, Support Max Joint, Hydromax and the Stimumax range, or more health-focused products such as Cystomax, Levagen or Support Max on-cycle support, you can follow Strom at strom_sports_nutrition on Instagram or check out that range at stromsports.com using the discount code British Strength, that's all one word in capitals, at checkout. Zero Wales, bringing the premium option of powerlifting and strength training to Cardiff via their world-class facility, superior coaching and supportive community. You can follow them at zero_Wales on Instagram or on Facebook at facebook.com/zero.wales. Zero is spelt with a W at the end, or head to zeroweakness.co.uk.
Beast Farm is the range of sports supplements and training gear founded by Eddie Hall, the world's strongest man. His new range is based on the products he used to become the best in the world, including Beast Stim pre-workout, Beast Hydro hydration formula, and even Beast Strong smelling salts. Check them out at beast.co.uk and use the code BSM10 at checkout for 10% off your order. That's BSM10.
If you would like to support the creation of more episodes of this podcast, then head over to BritishStrengthMagazine.com and subscribe to British Strength Magazine for articles by the brightest minds in the UK strength sports industry and interviews with the world's strongest athletes.
Welcome.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me back. And the only thing I need to correct is I'm definitely not as strong as you made me sound. I haven't done a 900 kilo total, and my best equipped is 1,012. So don't go by my numbers. Go by my lifters.
Okay, but that's a sign of any good coach, though, really, isn't it? I mean, people get those two things confused sometimes. I mean, I'd say it fills me with a little bit more confidence that, like, for example, Jordan is a legitimate lifter, a legitimately good lifter. Do you know what I mean? In terms of what he's told.
Yeah.
So if that was like down at 700, I'd be a bit more like, do you know what I mean? But you know what? 900, you must be close to 900. Come on. You must be like 800 and
I've
900.
Yeah, I've definitely got the strength for 900. I've just had an unfortunate run of being a bit broken, leading into my last couple of peaks. So I'll do it one. That's kind of like me checking out of powerlifting because my hips are bad. So I really just want to get 900 done and say I've done it and then be happy with it.
Cool. I'm sure you will do. Sure you will do one day.
I hope so. But I mean, to your point, yeah, it's always an interesting question about like does a coach need to be a good lifter to be a good coach? And there's something to it. I don't think you need to be the most elite lifter, but you need to have experience because so much of coaching is understanding the lifter experience, both in terms of how lifting feels, how your programming will feel, how the technical changes are going to feel,
Yep.
how it feels to do things wrong and then have them corrected, how it feels to go through that journey, and also how it feels to be on a high pressure platform. So it's not about the absolute strength and the eliteness of the coach, but they definitely need to have experience.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there in terms of like knowing how it feels and knowing that once you've done something yourself, like I know this works, and being able to maybe see something that someone else is doing and going and having an idea of like, yeah, that might be the latest thing, but it's not everything kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Which everything that pops up these days seems to be like people anchor on things as if they're the latest, the latest trend that's going to transform lifting. Might help, but would it be completely transformative? Maybe not. That's kind of how I see it. When I see these things, it's good to have a mixture of both, though, experience and theory, or knowledge, whatever, I suppose.
For sure.
So let's talk about Colton and how you met him. I mean, I've heard this one on your podcast, I believe, but could you give me a brief account of how you came into contact with Colton, and where he was at the point that you met him?
Yeah, sure. So I have a very strong South African lifter, Kurt Keogh. He's definitely worth a follow because he'll do some. I mean, he's already gone over 1,000 kilos raw, and he's just one of these lifters that's extremely consistent and constantly getting better. He doesn't compete that often. He just works really hard, and then when he's ready, he does the next one and is always building upon his total. So I went over to South Africa to coach Kurt at a meet. I can't even remember the year now. I'll bring it up in the background. But I think it was 2013. That's 13, 23, sorry. I think it was 2023. I went over there, 2022. Yeah, I went over there a couple of years to coach Kurt at this competition, Elite Raw. It's the first time meeting Nicolas Deprio as well. He was over there doing that. And when I was there hanging out with them before the competition, I was sort of saying, obviously Nicolas is doing this. Are there any other big lifters that we should be keeping an eye on in terms of trying to win this competition? And they're like, well, there's this guy Colton, and he's pretty strong, but he's squatting high in training, and he's kind of inconsistent. And I went to his page when they brought him up, and he'd posted a 370 kilo squat, bare knees, bare knees. He was wearing track pants. So in my head, I'm like 370 bare knees. I mean, there's not many people doing that. So I'm watching it. And I'm like, this guy's like either using fake plates. He's got wraps underneath his pants or something. I'm like, whatever. We'll just wait and see what happens on the day. Anyway, the day rolls around, we're all in the back room warming up. We're almost done with our warm ups. Colton's warming up, and his opener I think was meant to be 340 kilos. I'm also going to look this up so I get my facts straight as well. So his opener was 340 kilos. And he's got 320 on the bar. He's not putting knee wraps on. He's competing in the wrap division, and he does this 320, and it's like hard as hell. Like it is really hard. And then he loads up 340, and we're like, what are you doing? You're about to do 340 on the platform. I'm pretty sure that it was the 340. I can't remember if it's 320 or 340, but regardless, he doesn't put wraps on. And the last warm up before that was hard as hell. And so he's loading this thing up, and no one's around. Everyone's gone out to get ready for the flight. And so I'm like, Kurt, we got to go spot this guy. Like he really messed up the last warm up. So he gets under it, he gets fucking buried by it, and we're like, this is not good. Like, bro, what are you doing? So he goes out anyway. He opens on 340, and it's very difficult. He jumps straight to 370, and he gets buried it. And in my head, I'm thinking, this is what you get for lying to yourself, saying you're doing these heavy numbers using fake plates or wrapping up under your. You're just lying to yourself. You shouldn't do that because then you come to a real comp and you mess up. Anyway, in my head, that's kind of the thoughts going through. And then he had a terrible day. Like he got one bench press and then bombed on deadlifts. Essentially, couldn't get his opener off the floor, and he left. And what I found out afterwards is he wasn't lying. Well, we found out that in a big way over the next couple of years. He was just really sick. He'd gotten some sort of bug, and he was really unwell. And so I kept an eye on this guy, and I'm like, okay, this guy is actually strong as hell, like crazy strong. So my first interactions were at this competition, and we didn't talk much because he doesn't talk much in general. So it was very like brief interactions. But I kept an eye on him, and I was like, "This guy's strong, and if he wants something in the sport, he can have it." So I offered him sponsorship. We went back and forth a little bit, uh, and it took maybe 2 or 3 months of just going back and forth and learning a little bit more about each other before he eventually jumped on board and committed. So we've been working together since then, since about November 2022, and yeah, 3 years later, close to 3 years later, here we are.
Okay, so remind me of the exact numbers and the kind of theoretical, if you will, total, because of course at that competition you said he bombed. Like,
Yeah,
what would you say like his best total that he could do at that time was?
probably in the mid nines.
Mid
Because he
nines.
competed shortly after that, which is when we started. So he competed a couple of months later and totaled 960. And then we started together and went from there. So in the couple of years that we were working together, we've added 240 kilos to his total essentially.
That is mental. That is
Yeah,
crazy. That's a
crazy.
lot. Yeah. So, what do you think with that 240 kilo ish gain have been the biggest or most impactful changes that you've made for him?
So absolutely, first and foremost was cleaning up technical stuff. Getting on top of technical bottlenecks that he had, and he was always a relatively clean lifter. But if you go back and look at shortly after we started working together, he pulled 400, and if you look at his deadlift back then versus his deadlift now, it's very different. Like in terms of how clean and consistent it is. I think he posted a video the other day actually comparing a bunch of deadlifts over the years, and you can really see the change shining through then. So, absolutely, from a technical perspective, big changes were made. And obviously, that takes a while to sort of build into the programming and just intelligent programming in terms of um, people who are strong like to do strong people things. So, like, and Colton really loves reps and volume. So he was just doing extremely high rep, extremely high volume work beforehand. So cleaning that up and finding the right blend of a reasonable volume, high enough intensity, but also ticking the box of what he likes to do with rep work really made a big difference.
Okay, so when you said that he likes to do strong people things, the first thing that popped into my mind was that, oh, he must have tested his max all the time. But he was kind of going at the other end, like repping out with, some type of ridiculous weight. Are you of the opinion, not of the opinion, I suppose, a fact is a fact if it is so, that strength is gained in the 80% range. So really he should be, or a lifter should be doing all the work between 75 and 85. So 80% on
So
average.
what we really need to appreciate, and this might get a little bit long-winded, so bear with me, is that strength is not a trainable quality. It's not an adaptation. So in the gym, when you go and do your reps and sets, the adaptation your body is making is not strength. Strength is a measure of the adaptation. And as soon as we can wrap our head around there, it answers every question that anybody ever needs to know about programming. This is why doing 5 bench days a week doesn't make sense. This is why doing endless SBD days doesn't make sense. So the adaptations that we make in the gym that we can control and we can program for are coordination, motor unit recruitment, and hypertrophy. And
Okay.
so, like,
Right.
it's about what ticks the boxes in terms of doing those things. So when it comes back to looking at intensity in terms of what you're talking about, 75 to 80% range, it's like, what are we doing with that intensity? So as long as we're ticking the box in terms of um, pushing towards the adaptations that we're looking for. So I mean, the short answer is kind of yes. It happens in the ranges somewhere between like 70 and 90%. It's just that the higher that you go in intensity, the lower reps that you have, you're more looking at coordination, the actual skill of lifting heavy, rather than making you stronger. It's not a strength phase. It's strength in the sense that you're practicing the skill of lifting heavy,
Yeah.
which I know starts to get confusing because as you get more and more experienced, what really makes you stronger is hypertrophy.
Got you. All right. Okay. So I'll say I've got you. So just to recap that, I'm sure a lot of my listeners will have um taken that on board really well. But just to make sure that I understand it, just because I'm curious and want to learn. Um, so what you said is what you do with that weight, i.e., so if I went in the gym and did a bunch of singles with 80%, probably nothing would happen because it's so easy. There'd be no hypertrophy adaptation because I'm not going to near failure. My nervous system probably wouldn't adapt as well because I'm guessing because there's no the motor unit recruitment side of things wouldn't adapt so well because there are no grindy reps or no semi-hard reps. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, so essentially to stimulate hypertrophy, to stimulate motor unit recruitment, to maximize skill, all three of those things require high intensity, right?
Mhm.
And so like if we look at SBD, for example, as a squat bench deadlift, are any of these movements good for hypertrophy? No. Just straight up, no. None of them are really that stimulating for hypertrophy. So why the fuck do we do them? Well, we do them primarily for the skill. And we wave through the rep schemes because it allows you to focus on different areas of the skill. So when you're doing really heavy singles and doubles, that's really testing the skill of maxing out of what we do in powerlifting. If we're looking at skill work in terms of, okay, now we're doing 1 to 2 RIR with a set of eight, so a really hard set of eight, especially in the early phases of that set, you get to train qualities that are issues with your skill. So let's say you suck at bracing. I don't know. I'm not saying you suck at bracing, but you know what I mean. Let's picture that you suck at bracing. Because it's a lower intensity for the first few reps, that really gives you the opportunity to hone in that skill. Eventually, you'll get past the point where you can control that in the set, and then it becomes the skill of lifting heavy. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. It's not a bad thing to have. Then you've got the sort of ancillary benefits of doing higher reps, like work capacity, like developing mental tenacity and grit, like enjoyment in Colton's case. But if you strip everything away and you really ask the question, what makes us stronger? It's not actually the SBD work that we're doing. The SBD work allows us to test it. That's the practice run. The things that are actually making us stronger are the things that we're doing in the gym. It's kind of like, let's say you do drag racing, right? You're going to get out and you're going to practice driving. But that's not what's making the car faster. It's the stuff, it's the other stuff. It's tuning it, it's getting it off the track, it's installing better parts, it's making it more aerodynamic. Like it's the other stuff. And it's the same for us. It's like the SBD work is important and it serves a purpose, but the main purpose it's serving for us is the actual skill. And the skill has to have an intensity component because, as you know, we're not going to change your squat with 40%. We don't just squat 40% and hope it transfers over into 100%, right?
No. So we're saying that the drag racing car, that the car is improving in it, that the strength is what's under the hood, under the bonnet of the car, right? Of you tuning up the car.
The strength is the time. That's all it is. It's the output. It's the outcome. It's the thing that you're measuring.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's the accumulation of lots of different qualities that you've built, which is
Yes.
under the bonnet, under the hood of the drag racing car, which is yeah, you're improving all the components of this car, which culminate in an output.
Yes.
Okay, got you. I've got you. Right.
Yes. And so unless we understand that, which most people don't because they don't ever ask the question, like what is strength? How do we develop strength? You just say, okay, well, this is what we do to train strength because everyone else says that. When you ask the question and you learn more about it, you're like, okay, we actually already have all the answers to how to do this. And if we already have all the answers, we don't have to experiment. We don't have to be like, oh, maybe I should try squatting 4 days a week. Maybe that's the thing that's missing. It's not. We've already figured that out.
It's interesting that you should say as well that when a lifter becomes really elite, the main adaptation that makes a difference is hypertrophy.
Hmm.
Going back to the subject of Colton, was that something that he improved a lot during that 250 kilo gain on his total?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely gotten bigger. You know, when we started working together, he was more like 110, and now he's closer to 120.
Okay.
So he's definitely put on size, and that's a significant amount of size in a couple of years. And I mean, it's unreasonable to say that someone puts on 10 kilos of muscles in 2 years. Um, and I think the thing to not conflate too much when we talk about, okay, well, hypertrophy is a major driver of strength. Hypertrophy is an extremely slow process, right? Like we're not packing on slabs, kilos of muscle per year. You and I
Wow.
have been training for a very long time. You know, it's the whole like girls are scared of going to the gym and getting bulky. It's like I've been trying to fucking get bulky for 20 years and I'm still trying as hard as I can, and it's
Yeah.
extremely slow and frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, you'll have certain times in your life where you put that on very quickly. But yeah, it's in general, if you average it out over time, it's really slow, isn't it? Uh,
Yeah, exactly.
that's super interesting what you how you explain the quality of gaining strength though. Very difficult difficult to wrap your head around at first. It's almost like when someone explains a quantum physics type um concept to you, and like I don't know if it's quantum physics. It's like that the world is a simulation or time isn't real, stuff like that. It's it felt like you were explaining that to me.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, okay. um
Yeah, I describe it as like the red pill from the Matrix that everyone has to swallow and sort of get work and open their eyes because I mean it's I come from the era of like scientific principles of strength training, Chad Wesley Smith. Here are the phases of training. Here are the percentages that match up to certain qualities. And I preached that hard for a very long time. And so when I started thinking like this, I was like, this kind of A makes a hell of a lot more sense, but also B changes everything that I've known and understood when it comes to programming. And it's not like it changes it in a bad way. It's more like it opens your eyes as to, oh, here are all the things I was right on, and here are all of the things that I can immediately improve upon, knowing that this is more scientifically sound.
yeah, got you, which I suppose is what zero is, in a way, what you've made zero. Kind of, I feel like zero's taken the understanding of strength training and powerlifting just like to the next level. Sounds like I'm being, obsequious there, but I don't think I am. I think that's probably what you've tried to do as well. There's for most
Yeah, I
people, I
mean,
think
like,
it's a bit more in depth. I do think it's gone to like another level of depth, of understanding what's actually happening. That's how I see it anyway. Um,
it's what I've been seeking, but my whole like coaching career is more answers, and we have such few answers in the powerlifting world. Like when I was coming up, I was like, I want to learn more about like what makes a perfect squat, or what is a bench press, and how do we understand this more. So I went looking for it. I'm like, there's nothing out there. There's nothing out there that defines what technique is or what ideal technique is. We know enough about the human body and how the human body works. Why hasn't this been applied in this scenario? And so, yeah, absolutely, that's what we've seeked or sought to understand and to unpack and to simplify.
yeah, well, it's extremely interesting to hear about. So let's get even deeper now. What do you think? You must have thought about this for quite a while. Look, Colton totals 1,200 kilos. That I believe, broke the all-time record. What was it, by like roughly 15 kilos? And he is
Yeah.
what, probably 50 kilos lighter than the person who did it back then, maybe even 60 kilos. And he's a young guy as well, like what, 23, 24 now. What do you think it
Mhm.
is that makes him so different? Because he is ridiculously different. Like, I don't know what the dots difference is between him. I should have looked this up last night when I was prepping for this, really. But between him and the next guy down, but it must be significant. I feel like he's. I mean, it seems like he's just like running this race out on his own in front. But what do you? So there must be a. I know it's going to be a combination of things. What do you think makes him different first, mentally?
Yeah, sure. So to answer that question, I mean, sorry, to answer the point about dots, John Hack is next, and John Hack is 23 dots lighter, and of course, John Hack is also in sleeves, so there's that to consider, because like we cannot discount how much of an absolute freak John Hack is as well, right? John Hack is one of these people as well, and I don't want to discount that at all. Um, Colton's mentality, I mean, like in I want to say this first and foremost because I'm not Colton, and I can't put words in his mouth. I have spent a lot of time talking to Colton. Colton came and stayed at my house for a little over a month when he came out for Big Dog, so we spent a lot of time together and getting to know each other a little bit more. But I'm not him, so take what I say with a grain of salt. I know he's been a little bit more active on podcasts. He doesn't particularly love doing them, I don't think, but he's done a few over the last couple of months. So go listen to those. But he's Colton practices the art of yogi. So Colton's a yogi. He has very much a mindset inspired by that thought process of ascending the chakras and sort of removing the idea of limitations. And so his Instagram name, the Limit Breaker, it's genuinely how he thinks,
Okay.
which is like why would there be a limit on the human potential? Why do we have to think that 1,200 kilos is just like a zenith number that's scary and big? And he genuinely operates in that way. Now, I'm not saying that you have to become a yogi to be successful, but what really these top lifters tend to embody is all the stuff that we know we should be doing to be better at lifting. These people do, like the things that he should prioritize, he prioritizes. Uh, but yeah, from a mindset perspective, it's very much like there's no reason why he can't do these things, and therefore he can train towards doing these things.
This kind of goes along with the theme of like your perception of reality again. So it's all the same thing, isn't it? Like he doesn't he sees these numbers as literally just numbers. He attaches no meaning to them necessarily. Um and it's yeah, I suppose it's an exercise in just how you perceive things, which is what he makes it.
Yeah, and I think there's very few people wired like him in the sense of people make this argument of like, oh yeah, but you have to do it in competition. You have to be head to head with someone and all this sort of stuff. From what I understand about Colton, he doesn't give a fuck about any of that. His mindset is literally, I want to see how far I can go in powerlifting, and that's it. It's it's that, and he'll be done with that. He made a thing the other day saying he wants to really switch to strongman after he does powerlifting, sort of towards the end of next year, and he'll do the same thing in that sport as well. Like I have no doubt that whatever he chooses to do in the strength world, he'll be able to push and go hard on and have the same sort of mindset. Now, and like we don't want to simplify it too much in terms of like, oh, just believe and you'll be able to do it. Because there's a combination of a lot of things going on there. Like he's obviously a genetic freak. he's got natural born higher levels of strength than most people have. With that comes uh, I hate the word outlier, so I'm not going to use the word outlier. I don't believe Colton is an outlier. I believe he works extremely hard, but there's like certain levels of mental grit that are influenced by whatever's happened in your life. There's a lot of things going on. It's not as simple as just take this mindset and you'll be the next Colton.
Okay, so you mentioned before with the quality of strength that it is a lot of different things that are going on inside, and you said that he's got naturally born, naturally really good genetics for strength from birth. So now, if we talk about physically,
Hmm.
um, I'm not asking you to explain it at like a cellular level necessarily, but what do you think his, because he's a big dude, but there are many other big dudes the same size as him. Do you think that he just has a nervous system which maybe adapts better than other people's does, that it's more efficient, that
Yeah, I mean, like because again, I hate the term outlier because if you talk about outlier, you're talking about someone who's the I guess what comes to mind from a strength training perspective is someone who responds differently. And that's just not the case. Like if Colton did uh, a similar amount of tonnage in the gym, but did it all with 20%, he wouldn't realize those strength gains because that's just not how physiology works. Like you are still bound by the laws of human physiology and physics and all the rest of it, right? And so, from a genetic perspective, it's like, yeah, people, when it comes to strength training, what does the genetic component influence? Well, it's going to be higher tendon stiffness, more motor unit recruitment than like your quads generally have a lower motor unit recruitment. Someone like him probably has a much higher motor unit recruitment organically than other people. Uh, just I guess the way the muscle fibers are laid out, the muscle fiber type, all of that stuff is probably just a perfect storm. I mean, I'm saying probably because there's no way I could actually tell you
of course.
categorically, but it's probably just a perfect storm of every little thing added together that this particular person has, or the John Hacks of the world, or the other strength freaks of the world that we see.
Yeah, there's a really good insightful video by Mike Israetel on what are genetics for strength, and he talks about a few of the things that you just mentioned there. So if any of the listeners want to go and YouTube that, that's quite illuminating in terms of he goes through the different factors like muscle pennation angle and things like that, where a tendon inserts, if it's like a centimeter or half a centimeter different on someone, it makes a huge difference. So perhaps Colton has, like you've just said, a big, a perfect, not really a perfect storm, just a perfect, just a perfect culmination of all those things. Um,
Yeah, but I think it's really important for understand that you know, genetics is one thing and may play a part for sure, or does play a part for sure, but it's how you realize that genetic potential. So you can't undermine how fucking hard someone like that actually works in the gym. So it's not just like, yeah, their genetics are a little bit better than yours. They probably work 10 times harder than you in the gym as well. Like they probably train a lot better. You don't get that good just by the luck of genetics.
no, I certainly wouldn't want to diminish his hard work. And going, which no, I certainly wouldn't. You know what I mean? And on that point, I didn't. If John Hack ever happens to listen to this, which I'm sure he wouldn't, although he has been a guest, um, I wasn't being disrespectful to John Hack before when I said that Colton's out in front by so much. It just
Oh no,
seems it
no. I
seems
mean,
that
that's
way.
just facts.
Yeah, I mean, it's 20 dots points is a lot. I mean, it's not that it couldn't be caught up in theory, but it's decent. It's a good chunk when you at the elite level. Um, so to the point of mindset and training hard, then perhaps it is more important in a way for him and how good he is than the physical side. You mentioned his being a yogi and his philosophy. I think there's one thing to say that you believe a philosophy, um, and another to actually carry that belief with you from day to day, because you could be in a negative mindset most of the day and then go, oh yeah, remember that quote that, 1,200 kilos isn't actually, doesn't really mean anything. It's all relative. V- Versus having that ingrained into your thought process literally all day as you walk around in life. I think the two things are very different indeed.
For sure, man. And just to clarify, I wasn't suggesting before either that I thought fuck, what were we talking about? That you were saying that he didn't work hard or anything. I think I was more directing that at people, just general listeners, not general your list. You know what I'm saying? Like the general public are always looking for a reason to describe why someone that's doing something that they can't is able to do it, right?
Yeah.
You know, whether it's steroids or it's genetics, it's like don't discount the fact that anyone successful has probably worked really hard to be successful. But that point on mindset, I actually really love because I think about this a lot in terms of like business stuff as well because I like that side of things and just the whole idea of when someone successful or elite at whatever their chosen task is asked like what do you do or what do you think, they reverse engineer an answer to answer the question. And so like you'll hear things like, oh, you need to visualize, and then the person will go away and be like, okay, I need to visualize being successful, I need to visualize squatting 300 kilos, whatever it is. The people answering those questions don't have to think I need to visualize.
Yep.
They just walk. It just happens all day, every day. They then it's not a choice for them. It's just kind of happening. Now, I'm not saying you can't potentially train yourself to get there. I'm just saying it's an interesting thought experiment when you look at it like that.
Yeah, it's almost like saying, I don't know if this is gonna make me sound really silly, but saying to a lion, how do I be a lion? And then the lion tells you how to be a lion, but the lion is just a
Yeah,
lion. Um,
yeah.
be a lion.
No, I
It's
think
just that's what
that's
it does. Yeah.
perfect analogy. Yeah, perfect analogy.
So of course, like the rest of us, then Colton probably has maybe had some plateaus or setbacks or injuries along the way. Would you say that that's happened, or has he had a pretty clean run so far?
He's definitely had a couple of little setbacks, but very minor in the
Yep.
grand scheme of things. No major injuries. He is very, very, very body conscious as well. Like he looks after himself really well. He eats well. He stays very active. He keeps his health in check. Contrary to what people probably assume or believe or try to think, his performance enhancing drug use is tiny, especially compared to the level of lifters that he's compared to. Like, I mean, genuinely tiny. He spoke about it openly on Mark Bell's podcast,
Okay.
but having had the guy live with me for a month, I know exactly what happened. And for anyone in the know around that side of things, it is like shockingly low relative to his strength. So yeah, I mean, there's multiple factors in check. Like he's doing everything right.
Yeah, I think
But yeah, and sorry, I got lost with the question. The main thing that he's been dealing with is like a bit of hip pain and a bit of adductor tendinopathy from time to time, which is really typical of someone who's quite like open hipped, whose knees are going really far out. Which you watch his squats and his deadlifts, he's really good,
yeah.
almost too good at opening his hips. So he's missing a little bit of the other direction, missing some internal rotation, adductor strength. Needs some help. So it's something we're actively working on because it's been the thing that's slowed down his squat progress with both of the last two transitions or peaks that we've run. He's had to skip a few heavy squats because of it. It seems to hold up in his like rep work, but as soon as we start to go heavy, just because the technical breakdown exists a little bit more at the top end, the adductor gets aggravated. So that's what we're really working on now since his last comp. And yeah,
So the best thing for stuff like that is, I guess, adductors, machine, Copenhagen planks, is Copenhagen raises. Is that the type of stuff that he would do?
I mean, that's a very bottom level of it. It's more like how do you spend time in the right position in the squat, in the
Okay.
deadlift. So it's like you use that as a conduit to strengthen the muscle to perform the position better on the main lift spend time in like tempo squats, pause squats, making sure the knees aren't falling way out to the side, or in a leg press, or whatever you've got access to. So, yeah, it's those things are definitely part of the process, but they're not the whole process.
Okay. So speaking of workouts, would you be able to provide me with like an example of what Colton would typically do? Let's say in a strength phase, because obviously peaking is going to be super specific, near to a comp, and everything will be kind of chopped down a little bit. In a strength phase, what would like a typical squat workout be like for Colton?
So the way I program is like two, maybe three, but generally two sets of squats themselves.
Yep.
These are high intensity, like one to two RIR. Um, the rep range is dependent on where we are in any given phase. Like he's doing sort of 8 to 10 reps at the moment because that's what he wants to do, which is fine. Um, in a strength phase, you're doing between sort of 3 and 6 reps typically, and then so my programming style is you have uh, 2 exposures to a squat movement and 2 exposures to a deadlift movement per week. But in the way that I program, it's generally only one of the competition lift. So after squats, there's like an RDL.
Okay.
So that's like the second deadlift exposure. And then just general leg accessories for hypertrophy more than anything. Well, a blend of like hypertrophy and also the adductor care stuff that we're doing. So it'll have some sort of split squat, a leg extension, a hamstring curl, and normally some sort of core movement. So again, because of the adductor stuff, on the squat day, it's a suitcase carry at the moment, I believe, which is like hitting that oblique sling, which impacts the adductor as well.
Okay, that's interesting because I was wondering if like because Colton is so advanced that the accessory work would be cut down any. Of course, I'm programmed by Jordan, so I'm programmed by Zero. That's very similar to what I'm doing. So it's like, okay, maybe if once you level up and level up and level up, you'll be doing these accessories all your life. So that's interesting to know.
Yeah, I mean, the same general principles, right? That's again, you know, outliers don't lie outside of the the laws that we have in terms of getting stronger. Now, what might change is the purpose of the accessory and therefore the intensity or the performance of that accessory. That's the art of coaching, right? It's
Yeah.
like I can give you a leg press or I can give you a leg press. I can put you in close, go half range, go heavy as hell. I can put you out wide, focus on. I could go single leg. There's so many ways you can do a leg press. It's like, what is it there for? What are we using it for? But also, how are we buffering the volumes and intensities of all of these things to keep momentum going? And so someone who's extremely strong is also going to generate more fatigue because they're able to have more output. The interesting thing consideration that you've got with somebody like Colton is he's too strong for a lot of the stuff he has access to.
Right.
And so that has to then be offset by more sets. So typically I'll only program 2 sets for, a machine accessory, for example. He might end up doing 3 sets just to get a little bit more out of it because he either has to do fucking 30 reps on it or
Yeah.
create a bit of quote unquote pre-fatigue to make the sets more effective.
That is really surprising. So his workouts must take ages, must take absolutely ages to work up to his top sets, not only on his main movements, but you've got him doing more actual working sets as well. So he must be in the gym for quite a
Well,
long time.
not necessarily A, because he's fit, and B, because this is actually something that's interesting, really interesting, and kind of new to me. It's just like we're mortals, right? So like we deadlift whatever 300 kilos. So we're not used to just going, okay, you go 1 plate, 2 plates, 3 plates, 4 plates, 5 plates, top set, or whatever it is. These guys are going like 2 plates, 4 plates, 6 plates, 8 plates.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same amount of time. It's just fucking ridiculous. Like, and
Yeah.
so Colton's warm ups are normally like I can't even remember now. I think it was like uh 200, 270, 350, 400 kind of thing. Like very, very big jumps. Um, and like, I mean, on squats, the one of the most impressive things consistently is it's like I think it's like 220, 300, or two, 200, 250, 300, 370, something like that. I can't remember the exact jumps, but 370 is bare knees, like no sleeves, no wraps. 370 is bare knees, and it's just fucking mind blowing.
Yeah, it's crazy how he probably comes close to breaking like an all-time. Well, I suppose it probably wouldn't be that close, but could probably break an all-time world record unwrapped during a warm-up in theory if he decided to go that far without putting the wraps on. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
The thing that kind of shocks me the most about that is just starting at 200. Just like most people, most mortals, like you say, would get the bar on the back and be like, "Oh, Jesus, that feels heavy." Like it'd feel really, you know, if your body's not accustomed to the weight at first, but putting 200 kilos on your back straight away, I can imagine even if you are strong, that must take some getting used to. Like just the process of it, you know, for that to feel
yeah,
okay. This is nice and light. I don't know. Yeah, that'd be the most unnerving thing for me if I were in that position. Um,
yeah.
so okay, I'm not going to ask you to go through a typical bench press workout and a typical deadlift workout, only because it's pretty much similar. It's not not what you would expect, if that makes sense.
Pretty much, yeah. It's there's nothing weird and wacky and wonderful and out of the scope of what a normal bench or deadlift workout might sound like. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Um, so where do you think he's gonna take? You mentioned strongman, but you know, if he were to, even if he were to go into strongman and he were to moonlight in powerlifting, still, where do you think he could? This is, I know this is how long is a piece of string, but where do you think he could take things?
So, I mean, again, I can't speak to what he actually wants out of powerlifting, but I have a fair idea of what he wants out of powerlifting. So I know next on the cards is going to be the 125 and 140 and all-time uh, s- sleeve totals,
Okay.
whether or not he does those in sleeves or just bare knees. Um, and as fucked up as this sounds, it shouldn't be that challenging for him. Like he should be pretty much there right now if he wants it. But I know he's spoken before to me about the goal of 500, 300, 500.
Wow.
And
Oh my God.
but I mean again, like we've added 70 kilos to his bench press in the 2 or 3 years. So
Yeah.
on a relative sliding scale of percentage, we've added the most to his bench out of the three lifts. We've added a little over 100 to the deadlift and the squat as well. Um, and yeah, like so when you look at it like that, I mean, he squatted 470 already. He's bench pressed 272 in the gym already, and he's deadlifted 500 numerous times to the top. Just hasn't quite held on to it. So it's probably closer than you think on
Yeah.
the current trajectory.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It makes absolute sense when you analyze it, but to hear it, I don't think any, no matter how much it makes sense to you, how many times you've heard it, it's still going to sound quite shocking because you've been in powerlifting for a long time. So you could hear an equipped athlete say that and go, okay, you're really good,
Yeah.
but he's gonna do it raw. So it's still a
Well, I
massive.
mean, isn't it crazy that you wouldn't hear an equipped athlete say they're going to deadlift 500 kilos?
No, no, you're absolutely right. You wouldn't, would you? It's never been done. No, you're totally right. Yeah, yeah. So
Like, I mean, if an equipped athlete is saying they're going to deadlift 350 kilos, you're like, oh, that's good for an equipped lifter.
yeah, yeah. It's not. It's always the other way around. As it's massive
Yeah,
squat, massive
yeah,
bench, and then just like a token deadlift to try and add on to the total. You know. Yeah,
exactly, exactly. Yeah, but I like the biggest challenge of that would be the 300 kilo bench. I genuinely think that Colton will be capable of hitting the 1300 kilo total before he's able to bench 300 kilos.
Yeah, got you. Because he's closer with the other lifts, right? Whereas he's about
Exactly.
what?
Yeah.
He's about 25 kilos away on the bench. I think I saw him. What did he
Yeah.
double 270 the other day or something like that?
Yeah, he's done something like that in training, maybe in the last peak. Um, and yeah, I mean, squatting 500 isn't that tall of an order, and adding a bit more to the deadlift isn't that tall of an order, but it's a pretty big gap between 270 and 300 on the bench press.
That'd be a good quote to sell the podcast. Squatting 500 isn't that tall of an order. If you take that in isolation, oh
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like these things coming out of my mouth are still ridiculous. Writing programs for people like Grigsby and Colton and Theo to me is still ridiculous. The the most comical thing about writing a program for Colton is, athletes will have various strength curves based on their skill at whatever it is, and his skill is definitely the rep work. I mean, his skill is everything, but he's phenomenal at lifting heavy weights for high reps. And so to spit out the numbers that, let's say I was programming for you, or it's Jordan's programming for you, to spit out a number for a set of 8 for you is probably pretty close to your true max. It might fall a little bit heavier than your true max or a little bit lighter, depending on the lift and the context, but it'll be pretty close. Whereas for him to spit out the numbers from a percentage perspective of what a reasonable set of 8 to 10 would be, for his squat or for his deadlift, I have to plug in like close to 600 kilos. Or for his bench, I have to plug in, 320 kilos or something like that. So his strength curve is quite unique in that. Whereas from a programming perspective, there's a point in the programming where the numbers input to spit the output numbers change dramatically or more dramatically than I've seen with other people. That's all programming jargon to basically say the guy's really fucking good at doing heavy reps.
yeah, and when you're that strong as well, it makes it all the more impressive. It makes him seem like one of the X-Men or something. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
for us watching him on social media and whatnot. So yeah, absolutely crazy, and it's been uh, a massive pleasure to gain this insight from you. And I hope to see more impressive things from Colton as time goes on, and even the transition into strongman. Would you be? Do you think? Do you program any strongman strength stuff?
Definitely have in the past. And interesting enough, when he came out and stayed with me, we had long discussions about it as well. I guess I have my own views on strongman programming. It's similar to powerlifting programming in that, in weightlifting as well, where stuff gets just carried through from the old guard and no one ever questions it. And when you start to question it, quite a few things don't really add up and make sense. From an actual programming standpoint, I would have trust and faith in my own skill and ability to do that. But from a coaching standpoint, I mean, I just don't know the sport. Like what I was saying at the start of this in terms of how things feel, I couldn't communicate that. I
Yeah,
don't understand that. So if I was still in the picture at that point, I would enlist some help with that side of things. But I mean that's ultimately going to be his decision if and when the time comes.
fantastic. It'd be interesting to see him on like a World's Strongest Man podium or something like that one day. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Well, Thomas, that's about all for today. That was awesome. Thank you so much. It's provided me and it's provided the readers and the listeners with a fantastic insight into what goes into being Colton Engelbrecht. So thank you so much for this. Is there anything you'd like to add or say before we head off?
No, man. I mean, thank you so much for having me, and I hope people enjoy it and get value out of it. And yeah,
I'm sure they will.
really, all I have to say is thanks.